Time for Rupert's Royal Roundup.
Rupert's Royal Roundup.
Good morning, Rupert.
Morning, David.
I know you hate me doing that. How are you?
Very good, thank you. And my sentiments entirely. I'm hearing about Northern Ireland. I did serve in Northern Ireland myself back in the early 80s.
Yes, of course you did.
So I served with the Grenadiers back in the early 80s, served in Fermanagh and Londonderry. So my sentiments entirely. It was not a great time, but there we go. I signed up. I knew what I was getting into, and I had a 4-month tour like so many, and it was definitely different.
So obviously Remembrance Sunday is poignant, important to you, Rupert. Let me just ask you that. What is the significance for you and the Festival of Remembrance, for example, that we saw last night, today at the Cenotaph? Also, we know the Queen is going to miss Remembrance events after illness. That's the big royal news. But I understand that actually the royal presence today is going to be bigger than we've seen for a while.
Yes, because obviously the Princess of Wales is going to be there. We obviously know the Queen is currently suffering, I think it's described as a chest infection. She's recuperating at her home in Wiltshire, I believe, but she's hopeful of resuming public duties, I think, on Tuesday, including on Wednesday, I think, an appearance at the premiere for Gladiator 2. So that's something for her to look forward to. So she won't be there, but obviously the King will be there. The Prince and Princess of Wales will be there. It is a very important occasion, and for all service families. And I think, you know, last night I was at a football match, and we've seen these acts of, you know, silence, last post page at football, to try and make sure people understand what people went through. I mean, I've actually just found a letter from my grandfather that he wrote 110 years ago when he was fought in the First Battle of Ypres, and his line to his mother that he wrote on a piece of paper with a pencil, which I've still got, and only 2 officers, of which he was one, survived the battle, plus a number of other casualties within the lifeguards that fought in the First Battle of Ypres. And he ended the letter by saying, I hope I didn't disgrace my family, by almost suggesting it was a disgrace that he survived. But actually, it was just how he found the wherewithal to write it. And when you read a letter like that what people went through, that he had the sort of, I don't know, sense of calm to be able to write that letter just a day after something as horrific as that First Battle of Ypres was, and to the lifeguards at the time, you realise what people went through. And you've got to remember that was 110 years ago, and he survived the First World War and went on to be head of MI6. But the fact of the matter is, it is something you just don't realise what some people went through. I, in my service career, had it pretty straightforward, I have to say. But we do realise that there are lots of other people who had far more difficult things to go through than I did, and many other servicemen and women.
Very well said, Rupert. Rupert, let's pause. We'll continue with royal news after this break. Welcome back, 7:33, Sunday, November the 10th. This is Weekend Breakfast. A very good morning to you on Remembrance Sunday. I'm talking at the moment to Rupert Bell, our royal correspondent. Rupert, you were just telling us that you had served. This is a poignant day for you. And, of course, really good news. I mean, the Princess of Wales, back on form. Every single paper pretty much has this. This is the Sunday Telegraph, the Sun on Sunday, the words back on duty, the Sunday People, Kate's tour de force, and the Mirror also saying that Kate will soon be back at work. What's the latest on Kate's health?
I mean, the good news is the fact that she's out and about. Now, it was always likely that she was going to attend not only last night's Festival of Remembrance service at the Royal Albert Hall, but also attending today at the Cenotaph, where she will be on the balcony overlooking, which tends to be the place for the royal wives, as it were. Obviously, the King and the Prince of Wales will lay wreaths at the Cenotaph later on this morning. So it was always likely. And these are sort of semi-state, well, today it's obviously a state occasion, and last night is part of a significant, you know, the royal family, which, you know, the King is the head of the armed forces. So it's a very a poignant day for him and other members of the royal family, and an important day. So it's great to see her back. The Prince of Wales has also talked about, hopefully, that they may be able to resume foreign trips together. They haven't done one since 2022. Obviously, this year has been a very difficult year, and Prince of Wales reflected on that in his recent trip to South Africa, saying, you know, he has really, I'm misquoting here, but in essence, he says he's been through the ringer. Is a rather clumsy way of describing it. He referred to it in slightly different terms, but he has obviously had to deal with not only his father's cancer, but his wife's cancer diagnosis as well. So it's been a difficult year, but it's encouraging that she is getting slowly back on the road. We haven't seen much of her in sort of official capacity, but this was one. The next time, I suppose, we might see her in a more out and about might be at that the Christmas Carol service that she has and puts on every year. And, you know, we've seen her play the piano at it before. So it'd just be interesting to see if that's the next time we see her out and about after today.
Can I just ask you about the front page of the Daily Mail? Reveal who stumped up millions for a royal lodge. This is Prince Andrew. He's facing calls to come clean and reveal the secret sources of funding that are bankrolling his stage in Royal Lodge in Windsor. As we know, of course, you told us the King was trying to get him out of a 30-bedroom mansion. He didn't have the money for the upkeep. I think his money that's been sent by the royal family has been cut. But clearly, he's now got the money. The keeper of the Privy Purse says this comes from kosher sources. What do you know?
Well, this is it. You know, it's obviously, he said and had been cleared. Now, if the keeper of the Privy Purse says it's bona fide funds, then fine. But lots of people, various MPs are now saying, well, you know, the royal family do get taxpayers' money. Let's make sure that this is all above board. But this is the difficulty. Andrew is an endless problem for the royal family. Now, the King, you know, if I've said, right, I'm going to cut funding to you, if he then says, I've got the funds, then that's fine. But there are people, including a person that he's sold the villa. Well, the villa was bought, and he was pleading poverty at one stage. He gets a pension, I believe, of around 20,000 as a result of his naval career. Plus, he presumably has some source of incomes. He must have, I imagine, some funds. But this is an expensive place to keep up. He's got a 55-year lease on it. Part of the lease is to make sure it's maintained in a fit and worthy condition. So how long he's got these funds for, it remains to be seen. But right now, the royal family is saying, right, he can pay his way, then he can continue to live there.
I mean, there's this you kind of alluded to this, the explosive intervention by a French socialite. She claims she lost more than £3 million in a dispute with Andrew and his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson. Essentially, he said to her, I don't have the cash. She reduced the price, from my understanding of this, and she feels very hard done by. She lost loads of money. I mean, this story just, as you say, he's a problem.
As he has been for some time. And, you know, I think various MPs are also weighing in on this and saying, look, we need to, you know, just release who is paying and funding him in this huge lodge. And a lot of people, most people would say, well, why does he need to rattle around in a 30-room lodge? Wouldn't it be sensible for a 64-year-old who's now cut off from his normal working life as a member of the royal family, that he should just cut his cloth accordingly and go and live in Frogmore Cottage? But, you know, he's had everything taken away from him by his actions. And I suppose, you know, his castle at the moment is the Royal Lodge, and he wants to protect that. If he's found ways to maintain his lifestyle, and it's all above board, bearing in mind sometimes his choice of friends have always been a little bit questionable. If he's got good friends who are loyal to him and prepared to help him out, and it's all fine and dandy, then what can people actually ultimately do about it? So, but I think sometimes Andrew needs to maybe think about reading the big room at times and helping the cause of his family.
Well said, well said. Let's talk about the late Queen, because the late Queen was known for writing a diary. It wasn't about her feelings of the day. It was really just to record what had happened. And according to this book, this new book by Robert Hardman, she was still writing it 2 days before her death.
Yes, it was basically so she could remember what she did. It was not a diary that went...
We all need that.
Today I woke up and I was feeling a little bit under the weather and talking about her emotions of meeting people. It was very factual, as it was throughout her life. The King does something similar now, but it's not a... He used to write a much more... excuse me,
right.
open a diary. But now he's king. He actually... It's more, right, I've done this, this and this. It's almost like a sort of semi-state record of what he does. And the Queen was the same. 2 days before, sort of having a briefing about meeting Liz Truss and Boris Johnson handing in his resignation. Do you think that was happening just 2 days before she was subsequently died? It was very, it's very poignant what that last entry. It's brief, but that was her style.
I don't know if you saw earlier, I played a clip of a Liberal lefty having a meltdown over the Trump win in the United States. I mean, it's just priceless. Hopefully I can play it again later. But just priceless. And we've got actually a collage of a number of meltdowns that have happened over there. But I just wonder what the implication is here for Harry and Meghan, because we've spoken about this. He's talked about his drug use in the past. He's obviously there on a visa. They're refusing to discuss the implications or indeed his own visa application. Trump getting into power may change that.
I'm less convinced that there will be a dramatic change. Because we've even seen recently footage of Donald Trump showing the pictures with the royal family and how proud he was. I saw some pictures of him on a plane showing some of his aides, these great, his state visit with the Queen. He does love Britain.
He does, but if Harry then says, I want to be a US citizen, doesn't that change the game slightly?
Well, I don't think he probably will become a US citizen. That is the issue. At the moment, he's the Duke of Sussex, so I can't see that happening.
What about a new Homeland Security head? Would that change it?
I think at the moment, I think he's probably got more pressing things to worry about.
Well, I think that's probably true. Rupert, always good to talk to you on this really important day for you and for people around the country.